Welcome to this series on building a full stack application with React and FastAPI. By the end of this series, we'll have a production-ready integration with front-end, back-end, authentication, and deployment. Step by step, we'll build this together. This is what we are building: a React app powered by a live FastAPI backend. Real employee sales data, real API calls, real production architecture, and we are building step by step. Before we begin, we have to make sure our development environment meets the minimum requirement to develop React applications. First, we have to make sure that Node.js is installed. Now, we'll be using Visual Studio Code for coding, and then we'll need extensions installed, such as S7+, React Redux snippets, Prettier for code formatting, ESLint, and then TypeScript plus TSX support. For our backend, we don't need to install anything, since we'll use a hosted FastAPI on the Vercel cloud provider. So all backend endpoints are ready to go. If you're wondering where this backend comes from, it's built step by step in my backend series on this channel. In that series, we design database models, implement JWT authentication, structure routers, and deploy the API to Vercel. But in this series that we're doing here, we're focusing on the front-end integration. You don't need to complete that backend series to follow along here. The API is already deployed and available. But if you want to understand the backend architectures deeply, I recommend watching it. Next, let's go to VS Code, and let's open a terminal, new terminal. And first thing we're gonna do is check to see if Node is installed, Node.js is installed. So we'll check the version by typing node-v, and I have version 22.17 installed on my machine. But if you don't see a number here, then you can go to nodejs.org to install it. It's also recommended to install the LTS version. And we can also check npm version here by doing npm-v. And as you can see, I have that installed as well. If you don't see any numbers, then you'll need to go to nodejs.org to install it. The next thing we'll do is check to see if our extensions for VS Code, the extensions that we're going to need, if they're already installed, or do we need to install them. So we'll click on the extension tab here, and then here's all our installed extensions. First, we'll take a look at here. If we see our extensions, then we're good. So the first one we want to check is S7. Okay, I already have this one installed. Again, if it's not installed, you would see something like this, and then you'll click install and then to install it. And then Prettier, there's another one. This is our formatter, code formatter. Prettier code formatter is installed. ESLint is installed. And so it looks like all my extensions are already installed. Basically, these extensions will make development faster and cleaner in our environment. Again, for the backend, it is set and done. But if we just wanted to make sure we can access it, we can just go straight to the URL using a browser. For example, here I have the URL, the base URL for the API from Vercel. And as you can see, it is running. So we know that my API is running and ready to be used. Next, let's create our project. To do this, let's go to VS Code, and we'll go to Terminal. Then we'll use my projects folder. That's where I keep all my projects. And then now I will enter the npm create command to create the project. So here is the command. So basically we're using Vite to scaffold our React application. Vite provides a fast build and a modern development experience. So what we're doing here is we're creating a new project called Northwind Light React using Vite's latest tool. And we want to use a template called react.ts so that it allows us to code this using TypeScript. So if we were to hit enter here, it'll prompt me for a few things, like for example, use Vite 8 beta. I'll say no. And then do I want to install with npm and start now? I'll go and say yes. And then the installation process will begin. When the installation is complete, it provides me with this information here. Basically, it's saying that the app is currently running on my local host on port 5173. And this is basically my development server URL. So when I open this in a browser, I'll be viewing the React app running locally on this machine. So let's take a look and see what it looks like. So when I do go to localhost port 5173, I can see that the default page that comes with the installation is provided here. And this pretty much completes the installation for the app. As you can see, that it's the name of the app is right at the top of the tab here. Now, if I return to VS Code and do a Control-C here to get my command back and go into the folder of the app, which is Northwind Light React. So we'll do a change directory, Northwind Light React. I should be able to see all the files that were generated by the installation, files and folders. And to see this better, let's view it in using the file explorer of VS Code. So from here, what we can do is do code-r period, and this should open my VS Code window with the proper folder. And as you can see, now we can see all the files that were generated under the folder, the app folder. And if we were to go to our source folder, we can see the app.tsx. That's the page that we're reviewing in the browser here. So that's what it looks like after the installation. Now let's add version control to our app from the start. This will let us track progress, revert changes, and share our work publicly. We'll have a chance to push this repo to GitHub so that each episode's changes are visible and reproducible. So to start, we're going to go to our terminal, and inside of our projects folder, we'll do a git init. And then before we do anything else, let's go to our git ignore file, which was created for us during the installation. Let's add some file names here that we don't want to commit to our repo. So the only file I'm adding here is the .env. We don't want to commit this file to our repo, because that's where we'll keep our environmental variables, and those are like secrets, and we don't want them to be open to the public. So we never commit node modules, build output, and environmental files. They often contain like API URLs, for example, or secrets. Those should never be pushed to GitHub. I will do a quick save. I'll save. Then now we can do git add to add our files, and then do git commit -m initialize project folder structure. Now we connect our React app to the live FastAPI endpoint. So when we run the app, the browser will display live employee sales data. This is basically the payoff for this episode. Our front end talks to our real backend. So let's go and code this. So let's go to the source folder and open the app.tsx file. And then this is what we currently have right now. Let's remove the default boilerplate code generated during the React app setup from the app function. This is where we will implement the integration with the live FastAPI backend service. So let's take out all this stuff. And let's also remove these imports here. So after this, when you run the app, the browser will display live employee sales data. Again, this is the payoff for this episode. Our front end talks to a real backend. So let's code this. So here's the code. It pretty much fetches employee sales data from a backend API and displays it in a table. First, we import user state and useEffect from React. Use state let us store data, and useEffect let us run code when the component loads. Next, we define a TypeScript type called employee. This just describes what each employee objects look like: an ID, a name, and a total sales. Inside the app component, we create a piece of state called employee which starts as an empty array. Then inside the useEffect, we make a fetch request to our deployed FastAPI backend at this address here, and the endpoint sales. When the data comes back, we convert it into JSON, then stores the result in results.data into our employee's state. If something fails, we log it as an error. The empty dependency array means this runs only once, when the component first load. Finally, we return the render, which is of HTML, a heading, a table. Inside the table body, we loop through the employee array using map. And for each employee, we create a row, show their ID, the name, and the total sales. So in simple terms, this app loads employee sales data from an API when the page opens, saves it in a state, then dynamically renders it into a clean table. To make it look good, we also added code to the app.css file to improve the look of the table, such as blue bordered header and some stylings for the table here, gray column header, and so on. Now we can go and test it and see what it looks like. First, we'll save all of our files. Let's go back to the TS file here. We'll save all this stuff here. And then we'll go to terminal and then run the npm run dev command to run the app. And as you can see, it's now running on our local host 5173 port. So if we go to the browser and this is what the result looks like. A table with the employee sales data, just as we expected. So today we built the front-end foundation and made our first live API call. In the next episode, we'll refine our data fetching, structure our API layer properly, and prepare for JWT authentication. This is just the beginning. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out.